All right, check, check. Hello, everybody. Feels like it's been forever. Well, you got the dream team here. If this is your first time attending Tech Support Live, remember this is your hour-long show to get all your questions in, whether you're looking up to set up your router, set up your network, you're looking to get product recommendations, if you just need help with anything, or you're just here to hang out, you got our team here. So again, if this is also your first time here, I'll go ahead and introduce myself and the team. So I'm Angelo. I'm the Senior Interactive Media Specialist here at NETGEAR. So I manage this YouTube channel. I manage the live events that are now going across monthly on Zoom. Happy to share more information about that and when our next event is coming up. I also manage a lot of the Mural brand as well, and a lot of our cool upcoming activities on there. I can't share yet, but just a lot of things in the works, and I can't speak anymore or else I'll just get in trouble. So, Ben, you're up next.
Hey everybody, this is Ben. I'm the Digital Experience Manager for Armor, Smart Parental Controls, and Nighthawk Pro Gaming. I'm here to duck, dodge, dive, dip, and dodge any questions on XR1000 firmwares, updates. I know that that's an exciting question that you want to ask me, so go ahead and ask me that later. I'm going to turn it over to Michael.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael, Technical Marketing Manager at NETGEAR. I am basically a Swiss Army knife for NETGEAR. I do a lot of different things, including this show. Going to start doing live trade shows again soon, which is going to be great. I spent a lot of my time testing beta products and support on the products, and I'm here to answer any questions you got. Now I'll hand it over to Darren.
I'm Darren. I'm a technical support specialist and community moderator. I mostly handle our community and our social media platforms answering tech questions. So that's what we're wanting to do today. So ask a bunch of questions.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining here. And I do see we got a lot of our returners here in the chat. It is great to see everybody, especially after we take a couple breaks. Sometimes it's like, it feels like it's been months. I mean, in reality, it's been, I think, a week or so. But we got holidays coming up. We have Father's Day, actually, for next weekend. So actually, next week, you'll have Alec as your next host. But just remember, we're going to go from the top. So anybody who legit got questions, we tend to answer them if you're here early on in the show. So first comment comes in from Tiptoe Turtle. Thank you for coming. And you're back. What's up? So you're living in Arizona now, much hotter than Michigan. Oh, yeah, I do remember because I shipped out the shirt. Yep. Oh, my God. When did we do that giveaway? Was that a year ago at this point?
It was. And I've been to Michigan. Michigan gets hot in the summer. But 102 is ridiculous hot.
Yeah.
Oh, and it gets much hotter in Arizona than that. I lived in Phoenix for a while, and midsummer, it bakes.
It gets 100 degrees here in Alameda now. So, yeah, 102. That's any part of the southern part of the United States, you know, anything I think south of like the Oregon border, basically draw a line across the country, and yeah, you're dealing with like a heat wave.
Yeah, man, just brace yourself. But it's good to see because I think everybody's doing some move at some point. I think I've been talking to the rest of the team here, but I moved up to San Francisco, and I feel like I'm still all over the place because of that. So, hey, everyone's been doing big moves.
I actually do have an update for Arsenal R.
Ooh, yep, you got the next question here. And he says, don't want to hear any question about the XR routers, but no, this is from me, throw your hardest, most savage questions out to Ben. This is your time.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Great.
No, I'm kidding.
I do have an update. Hot off the presses, literally 10 seconds ago, on the firmware for the XR1000. End of June.
Ooh. Wow.
You heard it here first.
Nice. Next update. So that's not like the 2.0 to 3.0. It's kind of like just your next
firmware corrections and bug fixes and stuff like that. So end of June.
Perfect. Well, you guys
I thought it was going to be a little bit later, and I was kind of being dodgy about it, but but I got a good confirmation on it. So
Awesome. Well, that's your real answer, not the real
Nope.
non-answer. Great. But again, yeah, this is your best time to talk to literally the team here. I mean, I think we said this in a couple other shows, but our team really isn't that big. So any of you guys' feedback, we love, one, letting everybody know, like honestly, within the whole company, they're generally aware of the show that we're doing. So all your feedback, all your questions, rest assured, it does go to, it makes its rounds to the product team, to the executive team. And also we love seeing you guys' great comments and just the community that we built here over, at this point, over a year at this point. But great.
yeah, this was it's been a great outlet. I've learned a ton. I'm sure that you longtime viewers have learned a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Darren and Michael probably haven't learned as much as say, Angelo and I have. But
Just refreshed our memories.
But yeah, it's been good, and you guys keep coming up with questions.
Yeah.
My biggest question: are you guys going to be a service provider?
No.
Like one day?
No.
Which one was this?
No.
We used to be, huh? No, wait. No, we used to work with them.
We used to work with them. We used to have a special plan that people would sign up with us, but it was actually going through, I think it was AT&T. But no, we'd never become a service provider. Too many headaches and overhead costs are way too high.
Wow.
No. It's just it's difficult to be a service provider, and it's a big headache. And we're we like to do cool stuff. I think that we would be bogged down in the details, being a service provider.
Yeah, I mean, like, even take it from us, we were just even talking about this before the show, but I think Ben, myself, we've been kind of around the same kind of time frame. Even in 5 years, that the company does change quite a bit. Man, going from like literally building Night Harbor Gaming to launching it, just like to where we are now, to where we are with like Mural coming in, and then Arlo like flying out of the nest. It's been a wild journey here, but again, hey, you guys are paying attention, and the longer we keep this running, the more history we're going to build on these shows. Ben, you mentioned like, what if? I think we have learned a lot. I've learned that the IoT devices, the Echo Dots, and the Google stuff of the world takes up more bandwidth than you think. That
Sure.
I now know how to set up a ReadyNAS.
Hey, so do you actually have it set up and running?
I do have it running, yes. It is all good. It's all good to go. I do need to do the whole system backup. I've only backed up my essential folders, and I've just been doing that manually. So Michael, I might have more questions. I want to get more in the details with it. I kind of wanted to how do you say this? Again, this is something that we'll probably talk after the show, but getting more out of the ReadyNAS here, which is a great I guess, segue to Cynthia's question. But first, I did want to shout out Jerry Williams, Husky Gamer, Karen. You guys are all back, and again, we love to see your guys' names in the chat here week by week by week by week. But all right, Cynthia, you are up next. I would like my NAS network to be accessible via Wi-Fi from my default network 24/7. But the NAS only accesses the internet for a select time period for offsite backups and firmware upgrades. Oh, sorry. I was reading the second part of the question. I own an Orbi Pro, Wi-Fi 6. Great choice. I would like devices on my default network to access devices on my IoT network, but not allow devices on my IoT network to access devices on the default network. And that should be a default. That's one of the biggest features, I think, out of Orbi Pro. I know I kind of said the questions in the wrong order, but do you guys have a first pass at this? I at least know how to answer the first part.
Well, jump right in there. Let's see what you got.
Oh god. Okay. So I do know that baked within Orbi Pro, especially ever since the product's been out, unless I'm mistaken here, is it 3 or 4 distinct networks that you could set up? You could have And in reality, you know, let's say for the SMB application, you could do an employee network, you could do a guest network, let's say for customers, and then you could also have what's the third one?
It's like an admin network.
Yeah, the admin network, right? So that should be a feature within its own self where you could just essentially set up multiple networks, which is in contrast to our, let's say, Orbi Wi-Fi 6, not the Pro version. That one's really meant for the one Wi-Fi name, you know, really seamlessly going from router to satellite seamlessly under one name, versus Orbi Pro gives you a little bit more of that kind of granularity, lets you split up those networks. So that should be accessible, especially through. I would recommend the web GUI for setting that up, and that. Let me see if I could give you a couple resources there, but. Michael, you gotta validate me. Did I get that right? Is that easy? Can you set that up through the web GUI?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And in fact, the web GUIs pretty much on all of our products give you more control than you do through the app. The app is a subset of the things that you can do on the web GUI. Part of it is just what features we decided to put in the app. And also there's some features that are just a little bit too complicated to try to fit on a tiny little screen on a phone.
Oh, okay. Here, just for more context. So Cynthia says that's right, but if you isolate the IoT network, you can't access it from the default network. Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be hard though, because she wants to have separate networks, but she wants to give one a superset of powers to be able to read stuff off of the subnetwork, but the subnetwork can't see things on the primary network.
Right.
Huh.
And that's going to be difficult because I don't think that you'll be able to look between those two.
Right. Normally you can't, or if you do go in and you put links across your subnetworks, then that pretty much means anything on each side would be able to see it. But being able to isolate it that way, it doesn't really have any good isolation features there that still allow access from the other side of the network. For instance, if you put your IoT devices on the guest network, then they wouldn't be able to see stuff on your main network, but your main network isn't meant to be able to see stuff on your guest network either. So there's definitely, they try to create a dividing line there.
So also I did want to kind of clarify here, when we're talking about web GUI, because I'm going to put up a KP article here, but are we talking about the Orbi web GUI or are we talking about Insight? Because I'm curious on if Insight could give you a little bit more of that control. Because Insight is compatible with Orbi Pro, is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah, I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
Let me flip this up. Okay, disclaimer, I forgot. I forgot the Chrome view. I set up the webcam view. But let's see if none of my work stuff floats up. Oh no, you're just gonna see a mirror of our faces. That is fine. Sorry. Give me a quick second here, guys. See, this is how you know we're doing this live. Okay. All right.
So should I buy a Switch? She's asking to kind of go as an in between.
Yeah. This one is actually a little bit more complex than I think I originally
thought.
But
even buying a Switch, you're going to have the same problem because
the Switch is only on one line.
Well, and actually, if you get a managed Switch, you can control it a little bit better, but it still isn't designed to give one VLAN or one subnet, depending on how you have it set up, access to another one while B can't see A. Usually it's you want both sides to be able to see each other. And so what you really need is a superset where one account is the equivalent of admin, and that can see everything. And then the user one below it, can only see itself, but it can't go into the admin territory. And yeah, even on a Switch, you'd have a hard time doing that because they're designed pretty much to segment things out, not have one overlapping, sort of a Venn diagram where you have a big bubble and then a smaller bubble inside that.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to have a train that can go on two different tracks.
Yep.
And then the Switch is only going to work on that one particular line, Fresno to Los Angeles. It's not going to allow you to go Seattle to New York, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I'm in the weeds.
Yeah, it's not the same thing as when you're creating user accounts inside, let's say, Windows, and you're giving them access to different directories, where you can have a user account that has access to directory A, B, and C, and then a different user account that only has access to C.
Yeah.
That level of granularity, normally when you're setting up networking like that, they don't have that design in there. It's pretty much an all or nothing most of the time.
Oh man, I my analogy was like a one-way mirror, or what do you call it? It's like where it's like glass with mirror on the one side, but then glass on the other side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like the thing at the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love how we keep getting deeper into analogies, and it's all at the end of the day, Cynthia's like, what the hell are you guys even talking about?
No, yeah. So just to kind of clarify and get us back on track here. So all right. So the first part of the question, and I think actually they're probably both tied, right? So the network on the default network wants to see the devices on IoT, but IoT, so it's going to be separate, but then IoT can't see the default network.
Anything else on the rest of the network. And normally, if you have communications one way, you also have communications the other way. Because otherwise, if, say, for instance, your PC is trying to talk to your IoT camera, then the IoT camera has to be able to talk to the PC. Otherwise, the information isn't going to be bidirectional. And with routers, when you're going out to the internet, what normally happens is you can set it up so that all communications have to be initiated from the internal device. But once they've initiated that connection to the external device, both of them can talk both ways.
Okay.
So when it comes down to a solution, it's kind of hard, is it?
Yeah.
At this point, there really isn't a solution.
Okay.
Yep, and that sort of falls into Cynthia's next question, where she has a NAS on the network, where she wants it to be accessible via Wi-Fi 24/7, but wants the NAS only accessible from the internet during time periods where there's going to be offsite backups or firmware upgrades. And at this point, there really isn't anything built in on the router side that allows you to set a schedule per device, which is what you'd be looking for. Is you would literally want to have an app that says, I can schedule per device, that device has access to the internet, and that only gets turned on at certain times. I'd probably try looking at it from the other side, where there might be an applet that you can install on the NAS that would give you greater control of the NAS, where you could tell it you don't want to give it access to the internet except certain times, which would also cut off access the other direction.
It's almost like it almost sounds like a parental control. In the way that it functions. Turn internet on device during this period of time, and shut it off during these hours as well.
Yep.
So that whether or not some sort of parental control could do that for that device is an unknown, but you're kind of looking towards that sort of direction. I don't know if for example, our smart parental controls would function in a way that would make sense for that.
They actually might be able to have to look and see if it runs off of the MAC address of the devices.
Exactly.
In which case, it absolutely wouldn't care what device it was that you were trying to control.
Right. It would be agnostic to what the device is, because it would only be looking for the MAC address, and then you would be able to control it through through that, which is an interesting. It's almost. I love little hacks like that, and circuit hacks, and circuit bending and stuff like that, and it using a tool for what it's not designed to do, but getting the solution that you need to have. I think that's an interesting way. I may actually go and research a little bit on this. So because it's like I have a NAS, you know, if I could turn it on, if I can control it through that, that might be very cool.
Yeah, so I would check smart parental controls and see whether or not it's agnostic on the devices. And if it is, then that would be a good direction to go, is use that on your Orbi Pro, because that is the gateway to the internet. And then you would set your schedule for that one device to when you actually want it on and off. And then as far as the external backups, that's normally run by an app on the NAS itself. And you just have that set up to launch whenever the parental controls have opened up that gateway to the internet. So say at midnight to 2 in the morning is when you're doing your backup. So it allows access to the NAS from midnight to 2 in the morning, and your app on your NAS is set to go off at that time to actually start doing the backup. Giving yourself about 5 minutes on each end to make sure that time syncs are right. You don't accidentally try to start doing the backup a minute before it's available.
Right. And it's, to follow up, Cynthia had a question. I'm wondering about security via MAC addresses because they can be spoofed. Well, the smart parental controls is not really a security. It's more of a time management and you know, internet wellness sort of app.
Right. And also the MAC address that if you were trying to spoof it would be an internal address within your local network. So it's not a security risk at all, because if someone's spoofing your MAC address within your own local network, they're not gaining anything there. And if it's a MAC address externally, the parental controls aren't looking at externally allowing the access. It's the MAC address internal.
Yeah.
Wow. So a couple things too. Yeah.
We went deep.
Yeah,
Probably
but hey,
the deepest we've gone in a while.
Yeah,
like we are Mariana Trench deep.
Oh man. But hey, hopefully, Cynthia, you appreciate that level of detail. But you know, also at the same time, hopefully, everybody's, you know, I want to make sure that we do get to all the questions here. So there's a few things to investigate, right? I think when there's software solutions on our end. So I know you guys were kind of talking about a little bit about like SBC, kind of like hacking that in a way to kind of make it work for this kind of use case. There's, I think, Cynthia mentioned a firewall. I think maybe there's like third-party firewalls.
Yeah, any sort of command and control applet that allows you to shut off internet to a device. There's a lot, not just like our SBC, but there's a lot of different you know, products that allow you to turn things on and off. You just have to figure out, you know, which one that you have access to, which one you want to use, and which one, and whether or not it's going to work based off of the address.
So can I drill it down to 3? So it's investigating SBC, investigating the firewall thing, and then the last one, it's probably not a possibility, but like through Insight. Like in terms of just getting a little bit more granular control. That's your best bet, I think. If you don't want to, if you want to stick on what the software is currently baked into the product you own, Orbi Pro, Insight is your where you're going to get that most granular control. And that's probably your closest, I think, bet to configuring something like this.
Well, there is one other option as well.
Okay.
And it's if you really want to be geeky, you then take a spare laptop that you have, and you have the ports that you would normally be going to your NAS box, port forwarded to the laptop, then have an app in there that port forwards over the laptop. And within the PC, you'd have much better chance of getting third-party software that could control scheduling, timing on ports, that sort of thing. Because otherwise, all of that needs to be at whatever the gateway point is that you'd be going out to the internet, which is the Orbi Pro. And there's not a lot of additional controls you have on that, except for smart parental controls.
Could you build like one of those mini computers, Adrenos,
Raspberry Pi? A Raspberry Pi? Yeah. You could do something like that, but you really have to be a geek to do something like that.
Yeah, we're now deep.
We are pretty deep.
Neck deep.
Cynthia says she would love granular firewall rules, so we're pretty deep in there, honestly.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, but we did lay out a few options. I mean, if there's something else that Cynthia you would like to toss out here, just let us know here, and then we'll kind of either give you like the green light, the red light, a yellow light if we need to investigate a little bit more. But either way, I do know we're actually almost at this point halfway through the show, so I'm gonna go ahead and get back to Jerry and Arsenal in a quick second. But hey, Cynthia, for the next 30 minutes here, investigate either one of these like potential solutions here, and then give us a shout with
Yeah, the smart
got
parental
anything else
controls
to
is
follow
probably
up.
your best bet because that's something that is specifically designed to turn on and off access to the internet during certain times of the day. And as long as it's agnostic and it just doesn't care which device you're talking about, then that would be a nice clean path to being able to do that.
Perfect. Yep. Perfect. All right, man, you got a lot of knowledge in that on the services side. So not only are you going to get the gaming questions, but hey, you're going to get the smart parental controls ones coming up.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to get back to Jerry. We did talk about the firmware for the extra 1000. So Ben, back to you. Yeah. How about the extra 700?
That should probably be following pretty close behind. Sometime we are still supporting the 700.
Great.
So I could probably have an answer by next week on that.
Cool. And complementary to that, Arsenal with the launch of the PS5 next gen plans, Night Hopper Gaming. What are we cooking?
Yeah, the PS5 is a Wi-Fi 6 device. Your XR1000 is a Wi-Fi 6 device. So we already pre-planned that. So. Is there any plan for Nighthawk Pro Gaming and PlayStation? Yes, we planned that with the launch of the 1000. Mm-hmm. So hitting into that next gen stuff, 6 almost gives you, if not probably the same speeds as being wired. Though I'm wired into my Xbox because my Xbox is not Wi-Fi 6, and it's still not a Xbox Series X either. So
cool. What was I gonna? Oh, the
because I can't get a hold of either. I can't get a hold of either one of them. So
yeah.
So that question is really a question about unicorns because nobody can get their hands on the PS5 or the Xbox Series X except for Darren, who has both of them.
Well, also, I saw there was a leak of the price for the Switch Pro coming out of 399 euros. Some French retailer leaked it.
Which is crazy for a Switch. It's a 4K Switch, isn't it?
They say it's going to be 4K. We'll know on the 15th.
Oh, my God.
We'll see.
Wow,
we'll
the
see.
15th is going to be exciting for.
Well, will it have Wi-Fi 6?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's Nintendo. They're not going to put it.
They're not. They're going to be. They're going to go. I'm surprised it isn't wireless N. You know, it's like.
I mean, Smash players would probably hope it's Wi-Fi 6. Better connection,
better speed, more stable. Yeah, there's all sorts of different reasons why. But Nintendo's always been sort of behind. It is interesting though because they've always been behind everybody else as far as graphic power, processor power, internet
online
speed, and it doesn't seem to matter. And that's because the content and the IP is so strong.
Yeah, they take their time when they make games. They don't rush them out.
None of their games ever I always feel that every game that comes out on the Switch feels complete. I just got back into Conan Exiles. I remember when it was a first look on Xbox, and I was like, I played it for 7 minutes, and I was like, what is this garbage? And now I came back, and now it's like, oh, you guys decided to do Ark or Valheim in a Conan setting. Okay, now I kind of get it.
Tiptoe mentions it's 4K and they added an Ethernet port to the base, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
okay.
The fact that it has an Ethernet port on the base is kind of sweet.
That shows that they're semi-serious. Like if they can't afford the Wi-Fi 6 chips, which I'm sure, hey, that's my bet. I don't know, but the Ethernet port, at least they're not completely ignoring, especially the competitive players, the online players. Even with Switch Online, I mean, I pay for the family subscription. It's like mega cheap. I don't use it.
I love that you get NES and Super Nintendo titles for free when you use the paid subscription.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I like that. It's a perk. Also, I've probably played 1.5 minutes of that. But that's me personally. I'm still working on my little emulator thingy. More on that later. Anyway, and also to close, Cynthia just mentioned she's going to report in 2 weeks. Can't make changes right now. Devices in use. And just it's perfect timing because your reminder, we do this every week. So check back in with us every Friday, 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock Pacific time. And if you enjoy the show, please drop a like. Please drop a subscribe. We always
hit
love
the
to see
bell
it.
too.
All the comments, I'm telling you, all the comments that you guys have been dropping in the chat, again, one, we like to see it, and then two, hey, only so many people, even though people are company-wide generally know what we're doing here, it's just like those kinds of comments. That's what keeps the show running. So, you guys really telling us how much you find this valuable. That's exactly one, it just gives us that warm feeling, but also keeps the show running.
And then Prem has a Kumar has a question asked it a couple times. Is there an upcoming RAXE router in 2021 for NETGEAR Wi-Fi 6E routers? We can't say what's on our roadmap because they will shut this show down. But if I was a betting person, I mean, seriously, we're the leaders in Wi-Fi. We're the leaders in networking. Yeah, you bet we're probably going to be in 6E somewhere. Mm-hmm. So, not to say any specifics on that particular product, but if I was a betting person, I would say, yeah, we'll probably have some sort of 6E offerings.
Mm-hmm. We just had our Wi-Fi 6E Zoom event. That one's a secret link. I have the unlisted link to that. But either way, that one was last month, and our product manager, he threw in there was so much, actually, a lot of great information that he kind of took us through in that webinar. Really talked about what the future of Wi-Fi 6E looks like. A lot of tons of great resources. Either way. So again, we can't say what's actually coming out, and I'm not going to dwell on that subject too much, or else something might slip out. But either way, follow us on social. Like what Ben mentioned, these are hints. Follow us on social. Attend these Zoom events, and then especially when we start doing these things on Wi-Fi 6E, that is it's like a treasure trove of information. And then that's exclusive. Once we do the event, it's done. So that's all I'm going to say. Keep a lookout for the next ones, especially this summer. I did want to go back to Juan as well, so we don't do that whole rapid fire thing that we tend to usually do at the end of the show. Juan is asking, do Insight capable switches show you all equipment downstream from that switch if it's not NETGEAR equipment? And then secondarily, for instance, if an Insight compatible switch is feeding a non-NETGEAR switch, would all the hardware off of the non-NETGEAR switch be visible on the topology in the Insight web portal? Good question. That's a good question.
That is a good question. I don't.
Do you guys have any insight into that?
Insight into that, but yes. Most likely, one, you wouldn't actually see all of the non-Insight stuff inside the Insight software. That software is designed to manage Insight managed products, which are NETGEAR products. And there's a whole list of which products are Insight manageable, like our ReadyNASs are, a lot of our Insight switches. So various things that we have, that's what you can actually manage from Insight. The Insight managed switch that would be part of that, you could log into that to see what devices were attached to it. And if you've got a dumb switch connected to it, then you should be able to see other non-NETGEAR products that are connected to that. They probably come out as just generic devices, but you should be able to see them. If it's a managed switch that it's plugged into that's non-NETGEAR, you may or may not see what's on the other side. It depends on how it's managing things. But if it's a dumb switch, it passes through all the information. It's just a traffic cop. But you wouldn't see those inside the management portal of Insight itself, because that's meant to manage Insight products.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it is contingent on, let's say, how dumb or smart your non-NETGEAR switch would be connected to the Insight switch. So I guess to drill it down, if we could clarify here one, if you got a dumb switch, most likely. If it's a managed switch, maybe.
Exactly.
Depends on
Maybe.
Right. It's how you have it managed.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Like, for instance, I have a bunch of cascaded switches in my house. Most of them are dumb. And with the management software I use, it just drills right through the dumb switches straight to the managed switch.
So you're able to see it?
Yes.
Okay. So Juan, if you're still here in the chat, feel free to give us a couple follow-ups. Just clarify here if it's a managed switch or if it's unmanaged. And then we can kind of give you a better verdict as to kind of just getting you to the solution that you want, which is to see all the devices within Insight, right?
Yep.
Cool. And again, we're actually now almost 20 minutes left. So again, get your questions in. Otherwise, we will be rapid firing them at the end of the show. And I'm sure you guys appreciate, I hope, the detail that we put into this. So we want to make sure that we do help everybody as much as we can. Okay, so we got Prem's question in here, and then who's next? Robert, what's up? What's going on?
Yeah, Robert's in there.
And unless I skipped something here,
well, there's a question on IPv6.
Yeah,
which,
we got Ryan in the chat.
Ryan,
That's my next
and what product are you on? And that will help us in helping get IPv6. I find that my Xbox sort of loses that connection of the IPv6, and I have to go back into the Doom OS and just kind of set it up and then do a hard restart on my Xbox One. But also my Xbox One connecting to Xbox Live has been funky over the last couple months. So I find myself having to hard reset quite a bit. So you got a Series X, but what kind of router do you have?
Is it the XR one? Like,
yeah.
Ryan, aka Shady Joker, I think I remember. Okay.
Yeah.
My
so
bets are
if it's
1000.
if it's an XR router, if it's one of the XR 500, 700. Let's see.
I'm placing bets that it's a 1000.
I
Do
bet
I remember?
It's 1000.
Yes, I got it right.
Okay, so IPv6. So if you go down on the side to settings, if you go to,
do you got a link, or are you like in Doom OS right now?
I'm in Doom OS right now.
Dang, I can't share. It's all good.
Yeah. So you have to go to settings, then advanced settings, then IPv6, and then internet connection type, DHCP. Plop that down, hit apply or status refresh wherever you are, and that should get it going. And whatever device you are, Series X, you're gonna have to hard reboot that before you try using it on the after you've set it up on the router. Then I usually go over to what is it? What's my IP? My IP, IPv6, and it will say usually what that is. So test your IPv6, and it'll give you your address. And if that's all set, then I would go back and well, that's what I have with I have DHCP. I have for Comcast. I have to use that. And that should get you most of the way, I think. So
let me. Oh man, I want to get like some visual thing in here.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of tough here, right?
Is that kind of the basics?
Yeah. I mean, also you want to make sure your internet is providing you IPv6, right?
Yeah, that's also and also your modem is IPv6 capable. If your modem isn't, then it ain't going nowhere. So because if your ISP is IPv6 ready, but your modem isn't, there's no way you're going to get it through to your router.
Am I
Good thing
looking?
though is pretty much all of the major ISPs these days now are supporting IPv6 since it's been
Yes.
around for quite a while. If you're on like a third tier ISP, you would want to double check with them because who knows how old their hardware is.
Yep.
So is this right, guys? If I don't know if you guys could see it here, but I have set up a IPv60 HCP internet connection thing, page 37 of the manual, just so you got like a resource here, right? You know, it's easy to kind of like.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
I bet
should
you
be
could play it, but
that should be up to date. Hope I'm thinking. You know, it's pretty much what I just followed.
yeah, because there's a few options here, even stuff that kind of goes over my head. Like I don't know what the I don't know what a 64 tunnel internet connection is, honestly. But hopefully there's still something in here that you can find useful. So Hamad, I'm gonna link this doc in here, or the doc in here. So
And I would also say, you know, just make sure is the CM 1200 good to go? Yes, I have a CM 1200. I love it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is with your make sure I have to also there are, even with IPv6, I had to open up a couple ports for Call of Duty Cold War. So there's still a couple of those, because even though on every other game I was open NAT, for some reason on Cold War I was it moderate, and until I opened up those ports for Cold War, I could not get to open NAT no matter what I tried. And so it depends on the game, but for the most part I'm open. I have super fast connection on the Xbox, which goes into Robert's question. He's curious on what games I'm playing. I have been playing a hell of a lot of Call of Duty Cold War, both the zombies and also multiplayer. I did play through the campaign. No, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I was disappointed with the ending. And then I went back and I played State of Decay 2 because Xbox was running in May, because of Army of the Dead. It was a big zombie push, like for zombie games. And I went back and I played State of Decay 2, and I played it on lethal setting, which meant that everything had blood plague and everything was just an absolute disaster. I managed to only beat it because I called in my brother to help me defeat every one of the plague hearts that were in the game, and it was the only way I could defeat them. If I played that as a solo. Also, I'll just put this on record. I lost 14 survivors during that playthrough. It's the most amount of survivors I've ever lost in a game. I completely party wiped down to one guy like twice. And then I just started playing Conan Exiles. So that's been kind of interesting. It's in that survival arc Valheim sort of mode, but it's a Conan setting. So that's I'm a Conan fan, so that's where I'm at.
Hey Ben, this is why people keep asking for a Discord server, so they can hit you up about this kind of stuff.
I'm working on that. Actually, that is on an item that I would love to do for Nighthawk Pro Gaming, and create a Discord server, just for the community, because there's there's a lot there, tips and tricks and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Asking for my primary DNS. And with that, I use get automatically from ISP, and then on the ISP IP address assignment, use DHCP server. So if you get it automatically, that tends to, and Michael and Darren will back me up on this, it tends to 99.99999 solve that issue for you, because it's an auto setting as opposed to you setting it and setting the wrong setting.
Cool.
Cool. Whew.
We do
That was a lot.
have. I don't know how this goes by so fast. 13 minutes left. So
I
Ryan,
know.
keep us updated, and then we'll kind of help you kind of walk through you along here, especially when it kind of comes to setting that up. They want to shout out Vanessa Kitty. You are back. We appreciate seeing your great name in the chat here. You mentioned you're building stuff all month. What are you building? Let us know.
What cool stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can tell us about?
I think we all tinker in some sort of way. I was telling everybody before the show started, I finally, because I moved, right, I got to get like a new desk, and I got one that goes like this. Sorry, I just have to
It instantly makes you 2 inches taller.
I know, right? I just had to do that at least one time. All right. But yeah, let us know, because I think we all, here in the chat, like to geek out about this stuff. So we answered Robert's question on the games. We're going to get into another rabbit hole and bring that one back up. Raul, do you have any idea how long the Nighthawk routers typically last? Anyone want to take a crack?
Sure. The answer is it's a crapshoot with any piece of hardware. Nighthawk routers tend to last for a very long time. The routers that I've had, I still have an R7000 that I ran for quite a few years before decommissioning it, and it still works fine. The R9000 I'm running now, I've had for at least 3 years, still rock solid. So most of the time, your hardware is going to outlast its usable time frame. But every now and then, you can run across a piece of hardware where it got a slightly cheaper resistor in there, because when they test resistors before putting them in devices, it's a plus or minus test. And when it's testing, it may work fine, but it may not be a perfect, resistor, perfect capacitor, and it burns out faster. So you're not 100% guaranteed. But in my personal experience, the NETGEAR products I've had have outlasted their lifespan of use before they actually died.
Yeah, and I think Vanessa Kitty, didn't Vanessa Kitty have like one of our products that was like
Really
10
old.
years old?
Yeah,
When
and
it
then
first came on the show.
yeah,
Yep.
and then I know she loves her X10.
She does.
Yep.
I
beast.
used a XR 500 for 2.5 years. It still works. I gave it to my sister and brother-in-law. Not because it was busted. It was because I have an XR 1000. Before that, I had, God, what was, I can't think of it was one of the first Nighthawks. Which was it?
The first?
Well, the very first Nighthawk was the R7000.
Yeah, I think it was the R7000. I think I had that. That came out in like 2012, didn't it?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, I had that until my XR 500.
That one's all reliable, honestly. I had had one at the office actually, and then I think Alec he's using it temporarily as his move-in router. But it's just one of those that was in my closet that I could just always go back to if, like, for whatever reason, I'm moving somewhere. It's just the extra. It's like that Nokia phone.
The R7000 should actually go down in history as being one of the most reliable products ever made, like the Nokia 2300, the AK-47, and the F-150 pickup truck. It's just there's not, and also the first Subaru hatchback that would last like 300,000 miles. There's nothing you can do that to stop that thing. It's just, it's such a reliable. I think I still have it in the closet as a backup.
Nice. Yeah, you have to take in consideration that routers are plugged in 24/7. So I mean, their lifespan could be a lot shorter because they run constantly through power outages and power boot ups and storms,
power spikes.
And they're always running. So it is a piece of electronic, and it could go at any time because of that. It's not like something you're powering off every day and powering back on when you just need it.
Yeah, it matters on how much you're actually pushing it on using it. If you're cranking stuff through it all the time, say for instance you've got BitTorrent turned on, you have a big pipe and you're pulling stuff in all the time, that router is going to heat up. and it's going to stay heated up while you've got that constant activity. And like any electronic device, when you put it in the easy bake oven and you turn that on and heat it up for a long time, the components are going to slowly dry out inside, which is normally what causes failures. So the amount of use that you have, the quality of the components that are inside, and whether that roulette wheel hit 0 or 00, just depends on how long it's going to last. But as you've seen from what we've talked about, our products have lasted a long time for a lot of us.
Yeah, and the other thing is also where you put it. I mean, if your router is in a drawer, and it's got no breathing space, because it needs to dissipate that heat. The reason our routers run quiet is because they dissipate heat through heat sinks and instead of fans. And with that, it needs space to breathe. You just can't like shove it into a shelf, a tight shelf, or a box, or where it's not going to get any sort of airflow. That's definitely also how you treat it is also going to get your mileage greater.
Funny you should mention that, though. The friends that I went up and saw over the 3-day weekend, where we were gaming over the weekend, she had her NETGEAR router inside a wooden box, covered by a wooden box on all sides except for the bottom where it was sitting on the counter, because the network connections in the kitchen, she didn't like the way that it looked with the rest of the kitchen devices. So she literally had it in a box, and it was still running great. I don't know how long its life expectancy is, but aesthetically it looked better for her.
Okay. Yeah. So it's that kind of cross between one, your personal preference, but also two, yes, the amount of activity you're doing on your whole network itself, and then number 3, how you're treating the router, where you're putting it, where it's located, how much heat it's gotten, like what the elements it's exposed to. These are all things that kind of factor into the life of your device. And that's the one thing to think about, especially with just kind of generally in home networking and routers. It's like, it's one of those things that you don't think about until it goes down, right? I mean, I think a lot of people in the chat here, I think, are a little bit more kind of cognizant of what they're purchasing, which is great. I think everybody should kind of be aware of like what you're using for your everyday work and personal life, whatever it is. But again, at the end of the day, it's like just that's why it's kind of cool to see, one, us as a host, but also two, us to kind of see this community kind of grow and evolve as we all like share tips and tricks of the products to recommend to everybody, because everything is different. Everyone's in a different kind of situation, right? So
and we always recommend keep a backup of your router and your modem. If you're decommissioning a router or a modem, set it aside in the closet just in case, because nothing's worse than having a router go down, at a time when you can't quickly replace it and you've got to get back up on the internet, especially with a lot of us working from home. So you always want to have something you can fall back to that's already configured, ready to go. You can plug it in and keep going until you get your main hardware fixed again.
So we only got a couple of minutes. Brian M. had a question. Why do my Google Home devices have trouble connecting to my Nighthawk routers? Wi-Fi seems to be a common issue. Raul Kumar answered, try DNS and channel on the router to connect to Google Home. Michael,
also,
Darren.
If you have Smart Connect turned on, turn it off and have those devices connected to your 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. With Smart Connect, where the router chooses, a lot of those IoT devices, especially the ones that aren't really bright, can sometimes have problems getting on and off the network.
And they'll have difficulties getting on the 5 network while they're really kind of 2.4 devices, because a lot of those IoT devices do not have sophisticated Wi-Fi chips in them. Usually it's a 2.4. So by splitting out your Smart Connect, that'll definitely help. Also checking to see if you have interference on certain channels from your neighbors, that will also help as well.
Also, quick answer for Razor's question there on his R6300 model. Recently upgraded to fiber, 100 megabits down, 20 megabits up. Should I think about upgrading the router? The 6300 is easily going to be able to handle the 100 down, 20 up. So it really comes down to how many devices you have in your home and whether you're starting to overpower your router. If everything's working fine, you probably don't need to upgrade right now.
If you're looking to add cameras and smart stuff and you're running multiple gaming rigs, or you're running multiple live stream, and that includes like Zoom and Google Hangouts and that sort of thing. If you're running a multitude of those at the same time, then I'd consider maybe upgrading. But if your devices are seeming to be holding pretty well, yeah, I wouldn't adjust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's the thing, right? We don't want to just recommend you like the latest. I mean, we could, but like we want to cater our advice depending on the situation that you have, your budget. Again, like your results will vary, kind of like what I was mentioning, right? So hey, hopefully we're able to kind of help you out a little bit more. One thing I did want to mention as we're kind of talking about upgrading is again, it's one of the last things you kind of think about when everything's running perfectly, but also at the same time comes with, it's kind of like a double-edged sword where, hey, sometimes you don't replace until it's too late, and then maybe you never know what's going to happen until that point, right? So that kind of mode advice, have that backup. But also too, I think it's good to, like, for me, like, even like think ahead, right? Once I upgraded to I got the RX 200. But man, night and day difference to what I was like running. I think at my old place, I think I went from an an R7000 to an engineering unit of the XR 700, and then like a proper like factory ready RX 200, and then it was just a night and day difference, just in terms of the bands that I got, the Wi-Fi 6. It's great. So R6300, again, if it works great for you, perhaps you don't need to change anything now. But look ahead into what you could possibly afford, maybe budget it in the future. Have that backup ready, and then once you're ready to upgrade, you're ready to go, right?
Yeah, and as we always say, also check and make sure you're using new or newish or in good condition cables.
Yes. Yep. Again,
it's
I
the
got
most overlooked thing.
I got a bag of old cables. I should probably throw those out.
A bad cable will lead to a bad day.
Oh man, awesome.
And one last recommendation for anyone who lives any place where you tend to have a lot of power outages: put your router and your modem on a UPS. Don't trust just power strips. Those power strips basically have little fuses in there that once the power goes up past a certain point, then they trip. But the problem is, by that point, especially since most power spikes happen almost instantaneously, they've already gone right through that power strip up to the connected devices. But having a UPS battery backup is a great way to guarantee that you've got a nice little firewall on the power going through, and you don't lose those devices because the powers keep going up and down, or brownouts, which are even worse for electronic devices.
Yeah, and they're not terribly expensive. You're looking at what, from $80 up?
$80 up, and they'll last, at least 2 years on the batteries themselves. And most of them, you can buy replacement batteries that you can pop in and put in.
Yeah, you can actually go down as low as $40.
Yep.
And to get a 6-outlet battery backup, which you can pick up at Target or Best Buy, versus that'll connect to your router, your modem, and your PC or your console. So
yep. And if you're spending a huge amount of money on things like, let's say, an XR 1000, what would you rather have die? Is that UPS if the worst happened from a power surge that actually killed it, or the XR 1000?
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
And I'm going to go switch out my power surge.
Yes.
See, that's why I learned just as much as you guys, right?
Yep. And on that bombshell.
Oh, man.
Yes. We're at the top of the hour.
We are at the top.
All right.
And so I want to thank everybody here. Apologize that we do have to cut it like right on the dot now, because now things are back to back on Fridays now. But again, if you did enjoy the show, you found it valuable, please drop that like, throw a comment in on our Instagram, our Twitter, in the YouTube chat. Again, we'd love to see you guys come into the chat every single week. Next week, you're going to have Alec as your host. But otherwise, I really hope that you guys have a great weekend, and we hope to see you on the next show. All right.
See you later.
We'll see you guys soon.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Peace.